Hello. Today we're going to learn how to graph quadratics when quadratics are written in standard form. So I have a couple of steps for us to do, but just before we do that, I want to talk about the work that you hopefully completed last Friday. Last Friday, I was hoping that you would solve these quadratics. When you solve it, remember you find the factors of C that add to be C and the factors of C that add to be B. So in this case, C was 6 and B was 7. So 6 times 1 is 6, and 6 plus 1 is 7. So then I wrote that in my factored expression. And then we used the zero product property to break that apart and find that actually x is equal to 6 and x is equal to -1. And so what I notice about this graph is if you remember about the solutions to a quadratic, the solutions or the zeros is where the quadratic crosses the x-axis. So this is the x-axis, and this parabola is crossing the x-axis in two places. So that means there are two solutions, and those solutions specifically are -6 and -1, which match this work. So I was hoping that on Friday you were able to match the graphs based on where the solutions are and the what you got when you solved the equations. But this is super important. When you factored and solved the quadratic, you got -6 and 1. In the graph, the zeros, or where the parabola crosses the x-axis, will be at -6 and 1. So we are going to use that information when we're graphing them today. So going back to the notes, solutions when solving the quadratics are where the parabola crosses the x-axis. That's what I was trying to just explain. That's super important. When we solve the quadratic, the solutions, the answers we get, are going to be exactly where the parabola is going to touch. So I have two steps. The first step is you're going to solve the quadratic to find the solutions or zeros. So that means, like on this, we would graph these 2 points, the 6 and the 1. And then we also have to graph the vertex. The vertex is the bottom of the parabola or the top of the parabola if it's facing down, but it's the maximum or the minimum. And then once we graph the 2 zeros and the vertex, we can just connect those dots to make the parabola. So the second step here is how you find the vertex. You're going to have to memorize this formula. To calculate the x value of the vertex, you do -b divided by 2 times a, and that's using the same letters that we have been using this whole time, a, b, and c. And to find the y value of the vertex, you take the x value and you plug it back in and see what you get. Okay, press pause to write that down, but I'm going to keep going. So here's my parabola that I would like to graph. The first thing I'm going to do is solve the quadratic. So that means I'm going to find the factors of -8 that add to be 2. So something that multiplies to be -8, like -4 times 2 is -8, but -4 plus 2 is -2. So when that happens and you get the wrong sign, just put the negative on the other number. 4 times -2 is -8. 4 plus -2 is 2. So my roots, or the factors that I'm going to use are x plus 4 and x minus 2 equals 0. So I have factored it. Now I need to solve it. To solve a quadratic, we break apart we use the zero product property. So we're going to break these two apart into x plus 4 equals 0 and x minus 2 equals 0, and we solve both of these equations. So I'm going to take away 4 from both sides, and my x equals -4, and then I'm going to add 2 to both sides, x equals 2. So those are my zeros. So I can go ahead on my coordinate plane and put a dot at each of those points. My points are -4, so on the x-axis, I'm going to put a dot at -4, and the other one was 2. So at 2, I'm going to put a dot. And now my parabola is going to either go like this or like this, depending on where the vertex is, and I